Hello, everyone. Welcome to Clarity 16.1.2, Supportability and Feature Training. My name is Dave Sprague. In this section, we will review usability enhancements, and we'll also cover Clarity updates in support of our ongoing accessibility initiative. When combined with usability, contribute to overall user adoption. I'd like to start out with a reminder. Following Clarity 16.0.1 release, which took place in May of 2022, the team completed a VPAT certification process indicating conformance with Section 508, which is the main accessibility act for the US, WCAG 2.1, levels A and AA success criterion, and the EN 301549 standard, which is essentially the European standard for digital accessibility. As an additional reminder, Clarity's accessibility initiative is focused on the modern user experience and those capabilities available from the configurable grid. Clarity's current VPAT document can be accessed from the product documentation site under the Accessibility Features in Clarity section. It should also be noted that Clarity's accessibility road effort is never truly complete, but we have a roadmap in front of us with a near-term target to obtain a second VPAT, or I call it our version 2.0 VPAT, based upon Clarity 16.1.2, which is to be released in May of 2023. And you can also see that we have several items prioritized for the next development cycle that simultaneously initiates in May of 2023. So what's new? From a usability perspective, the following updates have been included in this release. First, Clarity's large string rich text formatting, or RTF component, has been updated and uses the same tooling as Rally. As a reminder, this is the Clarity component that supports multiple fonts, font colors, bold, bulleted, or number formatting, and so on. Next, in this release includes a visual indicator identifying an unsafe state for a new row in the grid. One could argue this capability applies to both usability and accessibility, but Clarity's implemented a compliant use of both an icon and a descriptive message to convey an item has been saved successfully, or the user needs to complete the required fields. Finally, Clarity's wrap text capability has been updated to break or wrap in between words for both column headers and grid cell content. And from an accessibility perspective, issues reported from the May 2022 audit continue to be remediated. In addition, the following specific updates are included in this release. First, when using configurable filtering, a screen reader output is improved to inform the user, number one, a page refresh is occurring. So in other words, the loading text dialog is announced by the screen reader. And number two, a new count of records has been returned to the page. For example, as a result, the screen reader would inform the user that 33 records are now on the page. As a reminder, in Clarity 16.1.0, we supported the type of screen reader interaction for the search use case. So this is really the second use case that we're delivering in the form of using filtering. Next, links and conversation modules are now accessible for keyboard and screen reader users, and configurable widgets are also accessible for screen reader and keyboard users. And then for those with impaired vision, Clarity has been updated to ensure grid content can be viewed at zoom of 200% or higher. Finally, drop-down menus, specifically multi-value lookups, single-value lookups, and pick lists, are also accessible for keyboard and screen reader users, which required compliance with WCAG success criterion 411B, which is a level A criterion. So why is this important? In general, Clarity's UX and development teams continue to deliver on the promise to improve the overall visual and usability experience in many functional areas. but we'll start with from the usability perspective. The update to Clarity's RTF component is relevant because it provides a modern experience for users that work in Clarity, but also provides a consistent experience for users that work in Clarity and Rally. The visual indicator identifying an unsafe state for a new grid row is relevant from a compliance perspective because color shouldn't be the only means to convey an error or success state when adding new entries, such as ideas, to the grid. Clarity has implemented a compliant use of both an icon and a descriptive message or a tooltip to convey an item has been successfully saved or the user needs to complete the required fields. Clarity's wrap text update to break in between words is relevant because since the introduction of the ability to wrap text in the grid, customers have expressed a need for the content to not break in the middle of a word. The wrap text capability has been improved to wrap or break in between words, which is a more natural format to view or consume the content. So far, this is being received as a welcome usability and visual design improvement. So why is this important from an accessibility perspective? Each of the accessibility improvements are delivered in order to drive adoption. Organizations demand software vendors comply with accessibility standards to ensure all Clarity users have proper access to perform day-to-day tasks. Each of the accessibility improvements considers the 4 pillars of visual and responsive design, keyboard navigation, and screen readers. As mentioned, Clarity's VPAT version 1 is currently available, and that was as of May 2022. And our next major goal is to complete the VPAT version 2 process based on Clarity's 16.1.2, which is to be released in May of 2023. So what's changed? First up, Clarity has implemented a new technology to support its large string rich text or RTF attribute. You can see a few examples of visual differences for selecting font size on the left side of the screen, and indentation or paragraph selection on the right side of the ribbon. But end user capabilities such as supporting these multiple fonts, font colors, bold, bullet, or number formatting, and so on remains largely the same from the prior 16.1.1 release. From the end user perspective, they will see mainly a UX styling change. So in this release, at Clarity and Rally are now both using the same underlying technology. And that's relevant from an integration perspective. I should point out that tables and images are next up and targeted to be supported in the upcoming Clarity 16.1.3 release planned for August of 2023. Next, this release includes a visual indicator identifying an unsaved state for a new row in the grid. One could argue this new capability applies to both usability and accessibility, but as mentioned, from a compliance perspective, color shouldn't be the only way to convey an error success state when adding a new entry, such as ideas to the grid. And that is all that is in place in the prior release as called out in the 16.1.1 image on the right. Now with 16.1.2, focus your attention on the image on the left. Clarity has implemented a compliant use of both an icon, it's kind of a warning icon, and a descriptive message. And that message is in the form of a tooltip to convey an item has been saved successfully or the user needs to complete some required fields. The tooltip associated with the icon is discoverable upon mouse hover and screen reader with the keyboard in use. If you focus on the image on the left, you can see that Clarity's wrap text capability is updated to break in between words. It's a simple improvement, but is being received as a welcome usability and visual design improvement. Since the introduction of the ability to wrap text in the grid, customers have asked for the content to not break or wrap in the middle of a word. The image on the right represents the current behavior, the 16.1.1 behavior, where content would wrap or break in the middle of a word depending on where you move the column border, which doesn't help the user view or consume the content. So the wrap text capability has been improved to wrap or break in between words, which is a more natural format to view or consume the content. All right, so let's move on to the demonstration where you'll see how to use the RTF component. We'll use the updated wrap text capability. And then lastly, we'll jump on to, and so you can recognize that visual indicator identifying an unsaved state for a new row in the grid. So let's move on to that. So you should see here 16.1.2 is on the left. I'll repeat that. The new release 16.1.2 is on the left and 16.1.1 is on the right. And it's kind of got that red banner so you can differentiate the 16.1.1 release from that of 16.1.2 on the left. And what we're going to do first is just take a look at the rich text component. And I'm on, just happens to be an objective. I'm looking at the, I drilled into the objective. I'm looking at the details module, if you will. And that's on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side is an objective again, but it was called a properties module. And we've got the description field up on both sides of the screen. If you focus on the left, we'll kind of take a look at the banner. You can see the new look and feel for that banner, and particularly focus on the font and or font size on the far left. So it's in the banner, that is. So if I look at the left-hand side, it's just a capital A with a pull down, right, for the fonts. And the sizing is done with a capital A with a little icon, and that's where you choose your font size. Compared to on the right-hand side, you just have the same pull down. It's just a different experience, right? So just be aware of the differences between the two. And the one thing I wanted to talk about was that, you know, there's a different set of fonts that are available, a reduced set of fonts that are not available in 16.1.2. There's 9 fonts including default as opposed to 12 that are over here in 16.1.2. Essentially, Monospace, Comic Sans MS, and Helvetica are not supported in 16.1.2. So just be aware of that. So that's basically some of the styling changes. If I go in and I look at, you know, I've just changed the color. I come into my color pull down. You'll notice on this side there's a reduced set of colors in 16.1.2. And if I come over to the right side and perform that same action, you can see another set of colors, a reduced set. But you can basically achieve the same goal by changing a font. I can come in here and I'll just, on the left-hand side, I'll just do a strike through for the word score. And on the right-hand side, same function, strike through is there. So basically I want to convey that all the same functions that were in 16.1.1 are available in 16.1.2, maybe just a little bit different look and feel for, like, for example, the heading area on the left-hand side, 16.1.2, and the heading area on the right side, just a little bit different. Different language is used, but the capabilities are essentially the same provided in 16.1.2. Now, all right. So what I want to do, I wanted to have those side by side so you can see the look and feel of the rich text formatting component in this simple case of a description field that is available from the details page. So let me, reduce this little image. I'm going to drag this over here, and I'll make one big large window here, and only to come back to the main list. And I've got my objectives here, but I want to bring in that rich text field into the grid because I want to show the experience here. Same thing. We're seeing the results of that rich text editing in this kind of shrunken format. And if I go into the flyout panel, I'll go into the details page and I can bring that up. Here is the same rich text positioned in the description field, but I've also just kind of positioned it horizontally, right? We've got that new feature that we got a few last release. Okay, so that's the rich text formatting capability. And like to summarize, the same functions that are available in 16.1.2 are mirror what was available in 16.1.1, just a little bit different look and feel as far as the banner is concerned. Okay, so let's take a look at wrap text. I'll come back to the main listing here. There we go. Let me just close that panel. And I brought in the description field. I'm back at a list, and the actual description field is a little bit longer. You'll notice that there's some column headings that have multiple words. I'd like to shrink those. I'd like to actually see all of the words, all of the description in the text. So what I can do is come to the wrap text area, select that, and the page will format a little bit. It'll kind of widen itself out, but you can start to see here the effects of the wrap text for things that are longer than, where the fields take up more real estate than the column space allocated. And it breaks in between words. Very simple, but well received. That also is the same behavior for column headers that have more, multiple words, and I don't want to. I want to miss it. I want to see that. As I go over to 16.1.2, I'll come back to my list, and I'm going to do the same thing. This is 16.1.1. You can see the red border here. I'm selecting wrap text, and as I move this, it's breaking in between words. It's kind of really not that easy to read, right? Here's an example in the name field that just cut it off at the G. And you'll also notice that confidence score, we get the ellipses. So it doesn't wrap that as an example it doesn't wrap the column header as compared to what I've done here in the columns in this release 16.1.2. So that looks really nice. It works really well. It's well received. It's a much easier way to consume the text. Okay, so let's take a look now at the new row addition. So let me just get rid of wrap text for 1 second here. I'm in 16.1.1, remember the red banner, and we'll go ahead and add a new row. Now you see here, I get my color that's indicating this is a new row, it's in an unsaved state, but from a compliance and usability perspective, this is insufficient. So back to 16.1.2, if I go ahead and add a row, you'll notice I get this icon here that indicates, and it is discoverable via mouse hover. And as I mentioned earlier, the screen reader will pick up on this as well and announce unsaved record, complete required fields. And you can see the asterisk here. So I would just, a new objective, and those are all the required fields for this particular this objectives. But that is the new capability there to indicate, hey, you have some it's in an unsaved state. You've got the color reference, but you've also got the icon here with a discoverable tooltip that tells the user to complete the required fields, and this just happens to be one of them here. Okay, so that is the new update there from a compliance perspective. All right, that concludes our session today for Clarity's usability and adoption for 16.1.2. I thank you for your time.